It's Thursday, the 22nd of June, 2023, and welcome to the Water Action Platform. This week, we have a very special broadcast. We are focusing on just one thing, the NEOM project in Saudi Arabia. Now, NEOM's been a sponsor, along with the other wonderful sponsors shown here, of the Water Action Platform, so it felt particularly appropriate to celebrate what they do with this special broadcast. Now, described as, and I quote, located in the temperate northwest of Saudi Arabia, NEOM's diverse climate offers both sun-soaked beaches and snow-capped mountains, unquote, it clearly conjures up an image of an idyllic paradise. But when you learn further that the NEOM region encompasses 41 islands and almost 500 kilometres of coastline, that image of an idyllic paradise is further consolidated. However, what makes NEOM special isn't this sunny, beachy, holiday destination image. No, it's the fact that NEOM is creating a new, massive, zero-carbon circular economy that redefines conservation and revolutionises livability. Now, the goals that NEOM have set themselves are incredibly ambitious. And like the mission to the moon, which arguably characterised the 1960s, NEOM has the potential to equally define and shape the coming decade. Now, water, of course, is a vital part of the NEOM mission. So today we're going to hear from a number of the senior team in NEOM about desalination, brine mining, smart networks and water circularity. But we're going to start by talking to the man who sits across all of the water activities, Gavin von Tonder. Here is something we recorded a little earlier. So I'm here now with Gavin, head of water at NEOM. And Gavin, thank you for taking the time to be with us today. For anyone who doesn't know anything about the NEOM project, and I appreciate that of the 9 billion people on the planet, there surely can't be many who don't know much about NEOM. Can you just give us the 60-second story? What is NEOM? What is it you're trying to achieve?
Thank you very much, Liz. Essentially, NEOM is a region in the northwest of Saudi Arabia, about the size of Belgium. And we are developing out this region fresh from start. There's nothing that exists there today. And it's all focused around livability. And when I say livability, what feeds into livability is circular economy, resilience and reliability, innovation, affordability, as well as really looking at how we enhance the environment. So not doing it as a pure sustainability fashion, but looking at enhancing the environment. And all the sectors inside NEOM, 14 different sectors and a range of different departments, are focused around those key principles when we develop out this region. We have the line, which is essentially a vertical city. Then we have Trojena, which is the mountain region, and Oxagon, which is the industrial region in the south. And today we have announced one of the islands, Sandala Island as well, with more that will follow. But essentially, that's a very, very wide region. And what we've tried to do is also make sure that we only build on 5% of the total land, returning all the rest of the land to its natural habitat.
It's just so spectacular. And and obviously, the description you gave of being sort of ecologically sensible on all aspects covers everything, but water underpins, you can't do any of it unless you get the water bit right, and as head of water, that's all your responsibility.
Yes, it's quite a tall task, but it's all the way from desalination to transmission and distribution to wastewater treatment, to stormwater runoff, building dams, flood water protection, looking at sea level rise, etc. So it's a really big remit, but it's essentially we are focused on a few key principles here in water. We're looking at high energy efficiency. NEOM will be fully renewable energy. So we need to look at processes, even pump stations that are high energy efficiency, only pumping during the day when we have renewable energy, but a desalination plant that fully works on renewable energy. And we have pristine reefs that we have to protect. And in order to do that, we're going to be doing desalination without any discharge into the environment. And that also goes for wastewater. So 100% circularity, zero liquid discharge, zero solid discharge from wastewater.
Water positivity, the whole.
Looking at water positive, not just no emissions of CO2, but also driving the water positive agenda and hoping to drive the water positive agenda in the world.
Well, over the coming 20 minutes or so, we're going to hear from some of the members of your team. And I hope, Gavin, you'll come back at the end of that session and we can talk a bit more about the ethos behind, the values that are behind the NEOM project. But let's start by having a look at some of the projects that you have already completed.
NEOM is the opportunity to do things differently, to do things as they have never been done before. We're dealing with a blank canvas here.
The water sector has set out its business strategy as a sustainable and circular business.
The sheer scale and size of what we're trying to achieve in this ambitious project is mind-blowing.
What we want to do is stop the abstraction of groundwater and increase the level of the groundwater. In fact, this is the first year you've started to see grass at the ground level inside NEOM. The Albada wastewater treatment plant has now been upgraded.
The rehabilitation work at Albada started in December 2021 and we recently finished in April 2022. So now we have a fully functioning water recycling plant, fit for purpose, fully compliant in terms of health and safety, and ready to produce recycled water, reducing the stress on our already stressed desalination system.
Duba desalination plant provides the initial water supply to NEOM. It started producing water around October 2020. It's currently delivering in the region of 20 to 25,000 cubic meters of water a day.
We've already constructed a large transmission main and pumping station which conveys water from Duba up to a large storage facility in Sharma. Sharma tank and filling station is just up the road and we have 12 bays and currently we're supplying about 5,000 cubic meters of water per day.
The biggest thing that we've achieved is to put together such a great group of people in the water team, because those are the people that are going to build out the network, especially the young Saudis.
People can see that what we are doing is the future of water.
So I'm here now with Greg Walsh and Gavin again, because we get to see Gavin multiple times in this recording. And we're going to delve now into the topic of brine recycling and desalination. But before we get actually into the detail of that, let's go to the special feature that is specific to NEOM, and that's that NEOM is basically a blank sheet of paper. Gavin, can you just add some colour to that? What do I mean by the blank sheet of paper, and what's the advantage that it gives you?
Yes, I think the benefit we have here is that we don't have any infrastructure in place. We're developing out a region the size of Belgium with a full water infrastructure and by the way, no surface water. So we know that we have to desalinate right from the start. And we know that our vision is to protect the environment, enhance the environment, do it in a sustainable manner, and build it out very cost efficiently. So the fact is that we can then plan in advance. So all of these things we can incorporate into the designs today. And at the same time, we can start to implement all the functions that you wish to implement when you have an existing infrastructure, but you are restricted from implementing it. Like putting in digital twins, putting in digital processes, working together instead of working separately from other utilities like energy or tech and digital, or even mobility infrastructure. You can work together with them and have one digital database where you have all the information.
And it's unique. No one else in the world has had this opportunity really to build from the ground up. Okay, so now, Greg, your remit in particular, I believe, is around the brine part of it. So what is it that you're doing in NEOM, and how's that different to what other people have been doing?
Well, I mean, as Gavin was saying, what we are looking at is a complete zero liquid discharge solution. And it's not just to do that for the sake of zero liquid discharge, it's to actually create a sustainable business downstream as well. So you have to start back from the principles. I mean, what we've got in seawater, as you know, is we've got over 100 chemicals and minerals that are there in various degrees and various concentrations. And, some are easier to extract than others, and some have more value than others. So, the only way that we could approach this is we needed to do a very extensive feasibility study up front. And we looked at this also not just from a technology perspective, but we needed to take very much a market-based approach here. In other words, which products could we extract that would really maximize the value?
And which ones are they?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, it's probably the ones you would consider, most within seawater or within brine. We've got salt, obviously. Salt is a key one, but not just salt for salt's sake. I mean, it's salt, like a suite of salt products, and a lot of that is focused on end markets and end customers and partners that we have. So, for instance, we would have vacuum salt. We're looking also at solar salt, salt specialties for food and general consumer use. Potassium is also a big one, a big constituent, and we're looking at potash downstream, which also meets the market needs of our partners. And then gypsum. Gypsum is a huge one. We have a lot of gypsum coming out of our brine. And with gypsum, we're able to obviously make gypsum products for construction, gypsum wallboard. And this is all stuff that we can consume within a local market, because obviously NEOM is an enormous project.
And you mentioned partners there, but partners are the organizations that will purchase these products from you. Is that have I understood that correctly?
It's not just purchase, it's also to help us develop. So we have partners that are going to be offtake partners, but we have partners that are also going to be development partners. Okay. And for these partners, it's very important for them. A lot of them are looking to decarbonize their operations. So they see NEOM as a big opportunity to be able to do that, to be able to actually get these green products within their portfolio. And this is very big for them.
And for them, it goes back to the point that Gavin was making. This is a once in a lifetime chance to prove at scale some of these new groundbreaking technologies. What's the balance between the economics and the sustainability? Because I assume that recovering some of these materials, products, shall we call them, is not economically viable today. But by proving the process, you might be paving the way for the future. Is that right?
Well, let me if I might just say that at this stage, if you look at how much we have to build, and coming back to the fact that it's a greenfield, and we're building this enormous region out, we need a lot of gypsum on board. We need PVC, that's where the salt comes from. We need glass, and that's where the soda ash is going to come from. We need hypochlorite for the water, etc. So we actually have a huge demand coming forward for all of those, from a lot of those products that we're going to develop. And so we do have that benefit. And if we cut down on the transportation of bringing all those products to NEOM, there's a huge value to that, not only from a cost perspective, but from an environment perspective as well.
Okay, so in generating the water and creating the products, your market for those products is hopefully going to be within 100 miles of where they've been generated, because you're going to be the buyer of those self-same products. Wonderful. How real do we think? And that's a great aspiration. There'll be lots of challenges from where the aspiration to actually making it deliver. Have you got some examples where you can be confident that the gypsum boards, for example, will be of the suitable quality and at the right price?
Yeah, we do. I mean, again, it is very much a market-based approach, and we have to be able to obviously produce products that are going to be able to be sold within a market. There's no point in us producing products that are way above market value. Nobody is going to purchase them. But we have found that through this, through this extensive exercise that we've done, through this feasibility study, we're working our way into the pre-feed now of a lot of the development of these individual work streams, is that we do have, and a lot of this is using existing technologies as well. Is that we can use existing technologies to be able to produce these. Now, that said, there are a lot of cutting edge technologies that we want to be able to drive into this process as well, which is why we're also developing out innovation hubs at the same time so that we can look at technologies that are perhaps not fully real at this stage, but they do have that potential. We can develop them out further, and at the next expansion of our brine facility, we can integrate those new technologies into them.
And just while we're on that topic, looking forward 10 years, what do you think that new development of new tech in brine mining, brine recovery might be? Is it about recovering a better quality product or recovering more of it more efficiently, or are there going to be elements that we can't recover today that we might be able to recover?
I think there's many things that we are working on, but one of the key things is that there's always new technologies that are coming up, and there are always companies approaching us virtually every week. But if you look at selective membranes, where we can pull out magnesium or pull out potassium utilizing the membrane, and therefore not having to go to very high energy demand facilities. There's a lot of work that should be going into that, because that can really change the mining industry in the future.
And the bit I particularly love about this, now maybe I'm running ahead of myself, but if we've got the energy transition from fossil fuels to batteries, it's these rare earth metals and minerals that are a key part of making sure that we get there, and everything that we can recover from seawater helps address that balance. Well, we're going to talk a bit later with your colleague Robert about the developments that have happened on desalination, but thank you for that little insight into brine mining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, a reference there was made to the desalination team, and Robert Gardner, head of water supply, was supposed to join that panel, but was stuck in a hotel in Paris with very poor Wi-Fi. Now, fortunately, I was able to quickly catch up with him separately. Rob, brilliant to speak with you. I know you're in Paris, so thank you for carving out the time to speak to us. We've just been talking with Greg and Gavin and hearing about the brine mining, but I understand you're Mr. Desal in NEOM. Can you start by telling me what you've been doing on desal?
Sure, Piers. So when we initiated the project and we understood NEOM's goals and objectives on zero waste and circular economy principles, we thought about what a desalination plant is and what the waste streams are that were typically produced being brine. And then we tried to reimagine how we would produce that brine so that it becomes a value feedstock for the downstream industries that Greg has been talking about, so that interfacing. And we saw that within the desalination market, within the membrane technologies that are evolving today, there are means of being able to separate out those different ion species so that they produce brine streams that have value and we can interface with industry.
Excellent. And that's and where are you at this moment in this project? What's the aspiration and what's the reality?
Now, the aspiration is to be producing brines of quality standards that we've set. So what we call polyvalent brine streams that are rich in magnesium and calcium, such that those can be recovered. And then the monovalent brine stream, which is obviously rich in sodium and chlorine for high-grade sodium chloride for industrial applications. But then produce also of potassium and being able to generate those chlorides. So the challenge really is developing a desalination scheme that is focused not only water production, but also on valuing the brine streams and putting together the performance specifications that enable us to do that.
Got it. And timelines?
Should be EPC tender is out in the market actually now. So we're looking to get the award of the EPC towards the end of this year, commencing construction early next year for first production of water from the plant early in 2025, which is quite a tight timeline.
Yeah, that's a race. That's a race.
So we're also looking at what early works we need to be doing and starting immediately to enable us to achieve that.
Good luck. I wish you the very best. Thank you for dialing in. Have fun in Paris.
Thank you very much.
Now, It wouldn't be possible to achieve the ambition of NEOM without adopting a smart digital approach. So to learn more about their approach to becoming a smart utility, I connected with Joao Pita, Head of Water Management, and David Mitchell, Head of Transmission, Storage and Distribution. Now, I started by asking Joao why they'd started by designing a digital utility.
Hi, Piers. Great to be here. Thanks for the question. Yes, it's a very interesting challenge. So starting from a greenfield is not as easy as it might seem. So we face a very specific business challenge, which is the number of stakeholders that as a water utility we need to engage with, either from design proponents, regional proponents, land use stakeholders, from design consultants to business partners, to O&M teams. We need to create that digital ecosystem that allows us to be more efficient.
So I then asked Joao how good is his digital twin and what are the pros and cons.
Yes, the digital twin is specifically focused on the design phase. It's one of our biggest challenges as we need to support the asset delivery teams. But not only them, we need to create a digital ecosystem where all our internal stakeholders are able to see what we are creating. What does the water utility NEOM want to do for water storage, for transmission lines? What's the land take? What's the impact of our implementation plan in the urban environment? And the design phase allows us to communicate that extremely easy via rendering and 3D designs, but very important as well, it allows the teams to simulate how the asset will behave. And this way, we are sure that we have the right design and the right value for money.
Okay, well, I think digital twins are great, but they have to link to the customer, otherwise they're meaningless. So I asked Joao directly how his digital twin impacted the customer.
That's a very, very good question. So in terms of our vision and DNA, we want to be customer obsessed. We are putting the customer at the center of all our designs and implementation. As David will later explain to you, we in NEOM want to achieve tap water. That's our main goal, to change the way water is distributed in the Middle East region. And to do that, trust is a key component. So we are designing and building the digital ecosystem that is an open one so that the customer can have in real time information about the water being delivered to him. That's our main challenge.
So I then connected with his colleague, David Mitchell, Head of Transmission and Distribution, and I wanted to know more about that challenge that Joel had mentioned about the bottled water versus tap water.
So within the region, within Saudi and certainly within the GCC, very few people actually trust the water produced by the desalination plants, and no one drinks it, or very few people drink it. They rely on bottled water, which is why we've got such a single-use plastic problem within the region. And hotels and residences, people's property, all rely on tanks on the top of the roof. So water's provided either through the network or by tankers, and it's stored on the roof of people's houses, often in direct sunlight. And the problem with that is then the quality of water can't be maintained. You can't maintain sufficient disinfection products. So no one drinks water. So how do we solve it? We need to make sure that our water is potable and wholesome throughout our entire network. We need to make sure that we track the usual parameters within a network in terms of pressure and flow, but also in terms of quality. And then within the customer interface, make sure they understand that the water they're receiving in their tap it is potable quality and safe to drink.
So that's great to hear, but it does create all sorts of new problems and challenges because with what David's describing, they've now got a pumped system. So I asked David, How do they deal with those challenges?
That's an excellent question. So we're in the middle of rolling out our main transmission network at the moment. So our strategy is to convey water throughout NEOM and store into concrete reservoirs, storage reservoirs, or service reservoirs, we might call them back home. And then we'll distribute by gravity to people's customers and people's homes. But the pumping of the transmission, after going from sea level, it's desalination. So there's an RO plant, reverse osmosis plant at sea level, and we have to pump up to a peak of 2,300 meters for the Trigena Mountain. There's a lot of pumping involved, and we have to be efficient in our pumping. Although we're going to use renewable energy, we still can't waste energy. And we need to make sure that the pumps are efficient, the best efficiency point. We make sure we're pumping at the right time, and we're not storing water. We don't need to store water.
Okay, so all this begs the question of where does new technology fit? Joel and his team find the solutions, and it's David and his team who set the challenges. So I decided to ask David what it is. What is it that he actually wants?
So yes, I want a fully smart network. I want to be able to monitor and control in real time or near real time all our network. All the water quality parameters, use and pressure and flow parameters. I want to know how efficient my pumps are, and I want to make sure I can do planned preventive maintenance when it's needed, so that we're minimizing our energy costs, minimizing our OPEX, and therefore minimizing the cost of water to our customers.
All right, so I want fully smart, I want to monitor efficiency, I want real time. David is clearly a very demanding fellow. Now, having heard his ask, I couldn't resist going back to Joel to see if he could actually help him.
Yes, it's a very tricky question, and it pretty much fits our digital mindset. We are acting in two vectors to answer this challenge. The first one is a living lab environment and approach. We need to reduce the human interaction. We want to maximize automation and robotic response as much as possible. And this is also a call of action to all the companies exploring new solutions that have something new. Reach out to us. It's our DNA to explore those solutions so that I can give answers to my fellow colleagues. The second one is about the workforce. We operate in a multinational environment. The digital ecosystem that we set up needs to have the ability to be multi-language, to be lean, to be simple. And that user interface design is also something that requires us to define personas, the journey, and how can we make it easy, avoid complexity.
Okay, so achieving zero liquid discharge is always going to be a particularly difficult challenge. And in the Middle East, it's sort of doubly so. NEOM have set themselves some incredibly ambitious leakage targets. So to finish this particular section, I went back to David to ask him what those targets were on leakage and how they were going to be achieved.
Yes, indeed. We have a less than 3% non-revenue water target, which is I think, probably the most stringent in the world. And we also have a ZLD, a zero liquid discharge policy. So we have to minimize the leakage, and we have to capture any water which escapes from our system or is flushed from our system. For instance, if we're flushing hydrants for a firewater network, or we're going to flush a distribution network, we have to collect the water and reuse it. Can't just discharge it to the local water course or to the sea. So that's a big challenge for us. Now, how we're looking into that, how we can do our best to achieve that is look at not only materials. We're going for pipes which have welded joints, so it's either carbon steel for transmission, or HDP, so we can have welded joints and minimize leakage at joints. We're going for high quality materials and valves, and we're putting all distribution networks into culverts, so they are accessible, we can spot leakage quickly, and the key thing is we can repair it quickly. Normal buried pipes, where we have to get a road opening permit and mobilise excavators to start digging, we can find leaks and we can repair them quickly. And that also extends to our main transmission network. So our backbone transmission will also be laid into a culvert. It not only increases the lifespan of the asset, but it makes the leakage target very much achievable.
Okay, so we now come to the third key aspect of NEOM, which I'd wanted to explore in this broadcast, and that's the work that they've been doing on water circularity and water positivity. Now, for this, I spoke with Nick Burnett, Head of Water Recycling, and Emma Danamilla, Head of Sustainability and Risk.
So I'm here with Nick and Emma for the third of our 3 mini seminars. This one is on water circularity and water positivity. But let's start with, what does that actually mean? Emma, can you unpick what that means? What does that phrase, water circularity and water positivity, mean in the context of NEOM?
Well, thanks, Piers. Great questions. There's been a lot of discussion, or there is a lot of discussion in the global water world at the moment about water positivity. And in the NEOM context, it really means bringing more water into the region than is currently here. As many of you, I'm sure, know, KSA, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, is one of the most water scarce regions in the world. And the plans for NEOM in terms of population growth, industrial development, and environmental regeneration require a considerable amount of more water than is available in a desert. So you've
got to recycle every drop, haven't you? You've got to make sure you use as much as you possibly can.
That's absolutely right. So the water will be brought in, as some of my colleagues will have already mentioned, through desalination using renewable energy, of course. And all of the water that's used for industrial and domestic public buildings will be recycled 100%. Our ambition is 100% recycling of wastewater and then subsequent reuse on the land for landscaping and irrigation purposes.
And that's the biosolids as well as the wastewater. It's the whole gamut of everything that's produced.
Yeah, thanks, Piers. So not only is it about the circularity of water and reuse of water, it's also about the use of what would previously have been called waste products from the treated sewage effluent. We have plans in place, which Nick will tell you more about, with respect to processing biosolids to generate renewable gas and soil amendment products. We also manage and process the brine products that come out of the desalination plant.
And we've heard from Greg. Greg told us all about the brine earlier on. Well, fantastic. So, Nick, she's lined you up perfectly. So tell us, what progress has been made? You've got the Al Bada plant. What is that, and what have you done?
This is a very exciting one, Piers. So what we've done at Al Bada is we've rehabilitated an existing asset. We've made it operational. The good news story is that we have now prevented illegal dumping of wastewater in NEOM. So we're fully processing all the wastewater generated in NEOM. And as a bonus, we are now also recycling it back into the communities for irrigation water and for dust suppression. So I think to add to Emma's story, we really are closing the loop.
I hadn't realised until you just that minute mentioned it, that Al Bada was an already existing asset. So this story of NEOM being a blank sheet of paper, it does have a few little marks on it that you've had to adopt. Is that right?
There are a few, Piers, that's correct. There are some legacy assets, and as you all know, when you receive a legacy asset, it never is exactly how you want it, how you plan it. But
yeah,
we've
you've got some
adapted
history to deal with.
Absolutely. So we've adapted. The first phase was rehabilitation. The second phase, we've recently signed an MOU with the Danish utility. And the second phase of this project will be to optimize it. So we're looking at low energy methods of aeration, real-time ammonia control, all trying to make this a fully optimal asset.
Oh, well done. Now, one of the themes that always comes through with whoever I talk to at NEOM, and it's come through on every one of the panels that we've had on so far, has been around the partners and the technology. And it's not just technology partners. Sometimes it's sort of off-taker type partners. I know that the work you've been doing, you're engaged with a lot of innovation technologies. Can you tell me a bit about some of that? Well, I get that you can't share the secrets, but tease us with some of the details.
I can tease you for sure. We have gone through extensive literature reviews. We have engaged with world-leading consultants, and we now have an implementation plan for innovation. So the first step of this will be actually, again, at Albada, as it's our first operational asset. We have planned to install an intermediate temporary innovation centre, and we've already identified 3 or 4 technologies that we wish to pilot and test within NEOM. So probably the most striking technology we're looking at is the algae wheel. This is an algae-based technology. It has huge potential in NEOM. NEOM is a vast region the size of Belgium, 26,000 square kilometres, many, many small decentralised facilities. So this algae wheel solution we have high hopes for. It's low OPEX, low energy, very low operational interventions required. And for us, the world is the oyster. There's many applications in the region, and who knows, in 10 years' time, this may be an emerging technology and a technology suitable for other water-scarce regions.
Well, I'd like to come back to you, Emma, on this, because part of the beauty of NEOM is it's a hothouse, a greenhouse for testing out new technologies, proving them to serve NEOM and to serve KSA. But it feels like there's potential that it could go bigger and broader than that. And that am I right?
Yeah, I think that's a good observation, Piers. NEOM really is an incredible opportunity, not just for the people working here, not just for the promoters in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but also for anyone working in industries that are really trying to push the boundaries. And I hope that the water world pays attention to what's going on here. I think we're a fantastic test bed, if you like, for various technologies and circular approaches that could be adopted around the world, particularly in the developing region. What Nick was telling us about the algae wheel, hugely important opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the absolute best. What you're doing is pioneering, and we need to put as much wind under your wings as possible. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Emma, for your time, and all the best.
Thank you.
Piers. Thank you.
Now, interestingly, NEOM have produced their inaugural ESG report for 2022, which I'm reliably told is regarded as best in class. Now, the link to it is here, and I will share it on the circular email afterwards. Now, I couldn't do those previous interviews without going back to Gavin. So here, for the last time, is Gavin. And at the end of this segment, there is a short video to complement the one that we started with, which showed the completed projects. Well, this final video will show the proposed future projects. So enjoy. So, Gavin, wonderful to have you back with us. You've seen that panel debate. It's been so good to meet with your team. And the bit I particularly liked was you opened by saying that there was a blank sheet of paper. But actually, when talking with Nick there, he made reference to the Albada plant. So it wasn't a complete blank sheet of paper, was it? You did have some assets that you had to make a call on as to what you were going to do with those. Is that right?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. And as I told you, we're trying not to build on the land and damage the land. So if we have an asset that's in place or parts of an asset that's in place, we definitely want to reutilize that. So yes, it is easier to take everything down and build something in the right place. But again, you're consuming part of the land that you don't want to damage. So our focus is very much on reutilization of whatever we can get.
And even that was quite a brave decision, because bearing in mind the budgets and the scope of what you got, I'm sure it would have been easier to just knock it down and build something new. But the fact that you rehabilitated it is wonderful, which leads me beautifully to the amount of commitment and sort of value and vision that's behind this. Can you give me some sense of the number of people who are working on this and what drives them every day? Because I can't imagine this is easy, because you're building the infrastructure, so you're living in a place that doesn't have the infrastructure that you'd be used to depending upon. Have I got this right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yes, I remember 5 years ago I was number one, and with no people in the team building out the strategy. So we're now grown to, I think, close to 150 people inside the water sector. We have framework contracts with a range of companies, and all told, we might be up at around 400 people just working on the water at the moment. And that comes to my people, and I'm extremely proud of the people that I've actually hired and the people that I have in the team today from all walks of life. I think we have close to 40 different nationalities out of the 150 so people. And the whole of NEOM is focused on some key values and principles because we all come from different backgrounds, different walks of lives, and different countries. So we're looking at caring for the environment. We're looking at people. We're looking at curious people who want to change the way things have been done in the past. We're looking for people that not just respect each other, but respect for the environment. We look for passion. And of course, we look for diversity, and I'm very proud to say that I have around 37% of my people in my water team are female. And if you're in the water sector, you'll know how difficult that is to actually do.
Well, I was about to say that it's the diversity feeds the diversity of thinking, which is what you need if you're going to do an ambitious project. You need different voices in the room. You don't just want one culture, one ethos sort of saying this is the way. You need as many different voices. This might sound a little clunky, but I often think back to the great philanthropists of the Victorian era and what they did to build the economy that most of the world is making a living out of. And some might say that they actually created many of the problems that we're now inheriting. I think that in 150 years' time, people will look back at this project. They'll look back at you and your team and say, those were the people that pioneered the way. They're the ones that showed us what was possible. They showed us what we could do. I love the story that was being told by your colleagues of, this is a test bed. We're not just doing it for NEOM. We're doing it to test technologies so that we can all learn, and that those technologies can then be used across KSA and the wider region. It's absolutely spectacular, Gavin. I'm so delighted you've been able to share with us today, and thank you and good luck.
Thank you very much, Piers. Much appreciated.
We want to be a template for what the world should be in the future. In order to be that template, we have to do everything with the environment in mind, with livability in mind, with social norms in mind.
One of the challenges within the Middle East is nobody currently drinks water from a distribution network. Everybody is taking water from plastic bottles. NEOM intends to change that by decentralizing the way that we remineralize water to the highest standards for people's health and well-being. NEOM will be building an entirely recyclable water bottling facility, so that if you were to buy a bottle of water, that bottle will be premium quality, and you will know that that bottle will not go to waste. It will be recycled and reused.
We have several future exciting projects coming up. Probably the most notable is our view on high recovery desalination and brine processing. We are going to extract the valuable chemicals and minerals out of this brine and sell them in the open market.
The other ambitious part of NEOM is to develop out an infrastructure with the lowest losses.
We have set a challenge for ourselves of less than 3% non-revenue water, which can only be achieved through unique design of the system.
The idea of a smart network is to have something which can be not just operated and controlled, but real-time monitor and control, which is really exciting.
We are fully committed to our strategic pillar of zero waste. Therefore, we will build a water recycling facility at Oxygen that will not only process municipal and industrial wastewater, but will serve as a test bed for novel and innovative technologies for implementation on the line.
We have found companies, universities, research institutes, technology providers that have all shared the same vision with us.
The intent of NEOM is to become a water hub, not just building out the water infrastructure, but ensuring we stay at the forefront of technology all the time. And that is why we are building the Innovation Hub.
I want us to be innovating, I want us to be piloting new technologies, I want us to have a centre of excellence for wastewater or water recycling here in NEOM.
I'm incredibly proud of what the water sector is trying to achieve.
We want to be the world leader. We want to be the reference point. That's the legacy.
It's an opportunity of a lifetime.
with that, we come to the end of this week's special broadcast, and I once again thank all of our contributors and sponsors, and especially all those folk at NEOM. And just in case you were not already aware, we do have a captioned version of this broadcast available on our website. Next month's broadcast will have Joe Burgess as the host. I hope you can join us. Keep asking questions, keep sharing, and keep safe.